used to this now. Finally, I can talk about this new set of wheels. It has been a long time coming. I've had it for a few months, which is a blessing and a curse because obviously I've got a little bit more to say about it because I've lived with it for longer, but it's been a pain in the arse trying to get this recorded for many different reasons. Some to do with the bike and some to do with the weather. This is my new Moto Guzzi, well, new slash old, new to me, Moto Guzzi Griso. Griso meaning grey one, I think. The grey one. Grey, something to do with grey. It sits in a strange little bracket. Closest competitors, I would say, probably are things like the BMW R9T. They get compared all the time. Having ridden one not too long ago, actually I would say they are quite close as bikes. So the Griso came out around 2005. They changed it in around 2008 for the 8 valve and they finished it in about 2016. If you're looking for quick indicators as to what bike you are actually checking out, first of all, it will probably be in the description, so just read words. If you don't want to do that and just want to look at the pictures, then there are a few differences between them. Main one actually is the engine casing. If you have a look at them, the 8 valves will have a black section on the back of the engine casing. They also have spoked wheels and they came in different colorways to this version. If you're looking at the description, you'll be able to tell because it will say either 1100 or 1200. The 8 valves came in a 1200 capacity. Now, why did I go for the 1100? It was cheaper. That's not the only reason. It's actually, well, seemingly a little bit more reliable, or at least you know what you're getting to a degree. Let me explain. The 8 valves have a common fault which Moto Guzzi had on actually more than just the Griso, but commonly found on the Griso. The fault or problem you're looking for if you're typing into a search engine is something called flat tappets. The takeaway, really, is that they fixed the problem around 2012. The words you're looking for are either rollarized, which means that the bike has been back to the factory to fix the problem, or they've fixed it themselves, or whatever it is. Either way, the problem is remedied. Or factory roller, which means it came out after the update and they had fixed the problem. Now on that subject, let me talk a little bit more about faults. On previous Italian bike reviews, I have played into quite easy and obvious stereotypes. And although they were jokes meant in good jests, some people get offended by it. So I'm not going to do that this time. I'm just going to talk about my experience of the bike and what I've found, you know? I can't say any fairer than that. What have I found that's gone wrong with this bike whilst I've owned it? Oh yeah, the electronics. It would be a leap to say that all Italian bikes suffer from electrical gremlins. But all 3 of mine have. So, basically, the main faults that I've found, and this is, so I'm told, common, is to do with the dash, to do with the speedo, the instrument cluster. So the big one is, if you leave it in the rain, again, I'm not saying all Italian bikes don't like rain, but all 3 of mine don't. The dash basically just stopped working. I left it out in the rain, I had to, for a certain amount of time. When I came to the bike and rode it away, the speedo stopped working. It did fix itself and remedy about, I don't know, 20 miles into the ride. I guess because the wind had blown out whatever standing water was sitting in there. But the speedo didn't work. On top of that, and I may have already mentioned this, the fuel sensor also stopped working about, let's call it 2 weeks into owning it. Which I learned to my cost because it did it somewhere along the M40. I can tell you for sure that it will give you 170 miles on a full tank. And not 172. The last 2, you're gonna have to push. The other thing I've found is problems starting the bike and with the battery. Now the battery I can't blame on the bike at all. It had a motobat in it. It is fairly picky about how and when it wants to start. I haven't gotten to the bottom of that. I don't know whether it is to do with the starter motor or the battery or some kind of internal wiring. All I can tell you is at the moment I am having problems, which I will fix. It's just a case of trial and error. Little update on the start problems. Seemingly it is fixed, so to all intents and purposes, the battery was the cause. The older battery, the motobat, is the one you'll most commonly find on the internet if you are looking. It doesn't have the best terminals. I would recommend the Yuasa because it fits a little bit better. It's a big old lump of a battery. It needs to be because it's a big old lump of a bike. So it needs a big kick to turn it over. So if there's anything wrong with your battery, i.e. this, some bitch right here, the bike won't even try. I would firmly recommend spending a little bit extra and going for the Yuasa, because the terminals are better. Tiny little things, but the gearbox can be a bit of a pain when you first start up. And I found that on the V7 as well. It seems to be a Moto Guzzi trait as far as the 3 bikes that I've tried. It's a little clunky when you set off, so when you start up the bikes, knock it into first, chances are the first 2 times it's going to knock it back into neutral. You really need to boot it to get it in there, or rock it to kind of wiggle it free. Don't be too concerned. If you are looking at buying one, that doesn't mean the gearbox is knackered. You'll be able to tell that after riding it a little bit further. To give you a roundup of the specs and what this thing is playing with for power and performance and precision, it is 1064 cc's, they call it 1100. It makes 87 brake horsepower at 7,500 revs and about 65 foot-pounds at 6,000. To put that in any kind of perspective, the Monster S2R that I occasionally get to ride has about the same kind of performance output. Big difference though is that that bike is a lot lighter than the Griso. While we're talking weight, it is 227 kilograms dry. It's not a light bike, I know that very intimately, having pushed this for 2 miles on the M40. I'm never gonna let that slide, I'm never gonna forgive you. On the fuel point, it has I think it's about 18 litre fuel tank. 18 litre? 17 litre, sorry, about 17 litre. Not huge, and again, that will give you about 170 miles from petrol station to petrol station, or near petrol station. I'm still never going to forgive you for that. It gives you about 120 usually, or it did before the fuel warning light comes on. It's 6-speed, it has no traction control, it has no ABS, it is old school tech. It has fully adjustable upside down forks on the front, and it has a fully adjustable Sachs rear shock. The suspension on this bike is quite good. Brakes are pretty good as well. You've got 320mm dual discs on the front. Blah, blah, blah. It's too cold for me to speak. And a 282mm rear disc, I believe. You have 4-piston Brembo calipers on the front. If you go for later versions, you'll find they are radial mounted. These ones aren't. And on the back, you've got 2-piston Brembos. Seat height is 760mm. It's quite low actually, quite comfortable to throw a leg over. It's got quite a wide seat, which just adds to that comfort. What I will say is if you are a little bit taller, you might find yourself hunched up a little bit too uncomfortably. If you've got really long legs, I don't think this is the kind of bike for you. Wheelbase is 1,560mm. It is long, really long. It also has a trail of 108mm. But all of that is leaning towards and indicating that this thing will be lazy or slow to handle. It's more that it kind of irons out problems. It's not going to be snappy. If you're whipping it through traffic or trying to ride this thing like a supermoto, you'll be sorely disappointed. But if you prepare well enough, it really can change direction quick. I quite like the handle of this thing, mainly because it is so stable, mainly because it irons out those problems, and a lot of that is thanks to the bigger weight, the bigger tyres, the longer wheelbase, the longer trail. It all counts towards it, without being so much of a compromise that it becomes just some big, heavy cruiser. Now then, let me show you the dash, show you a few things on here so you can actually hear it start up as well. By the way, shout out to Cam for making me this. Absolute legend. He listens to the podcast, if you've not heard it before. I do a podcast. So you've got, obviously, 2 trips, and then you've got mode. Just around the back here, you might be able to see, we have that little switch. That is what you operate this from. So we can see the battery there. That is something you'll want to keep on constantly. Oh, also, it gives you the ambient temperature. I can't think of many things more useless on a bike. I know how cold it is. I'm sitting in it. I don't need to know that it's 6 degrees. But there we go. Now, with that in mind, pop you back there. We'll hear this thing go. There are no real modifications on it. The person who had it previously has tidied up the tail a little bit, and they've also stuck on this side, a GPR exhaust. It's not the best sounding, but it still sounds better than the stock version. It is a damn sight smaller as well than the stock versions on the Griso. Let's see if you actually will start. Keep my fingers crossed, eh? And what I say about the clutch, it sounds like someone's lost a few forks in the dishwasher. That's the noise. Not concerning. They all do that. That is the clutch. And also, worth noting, when it's warm, that goes away to a certain degree. But it does sound pretty good when it's on song. clutch is just as noisy as ever. Trust me, it does get a little quieter, a little bit, when it's warm. Now with all that said, it's probably time to get out and actually show you how this thing rides. So come with me and we'll take this thing on some lovely autumn roads, slowly. So let's show you what it's actually like to ride. As I say, I wasn't sure going into this whether or not this would work in a town or work as well as the V7 in a town. Actually, in certain respects it works better. That clutch is a little bit lighter and easier to get on with than the V7 was. Obviously it's longer, obviously it's a little bit harder to get through traffic, just means a bit of extra planning. And the engine, although some people do complain about twins being lumpy, not being smooth, the Griso is quite smooth actually. It really is. It isn't lumpy, it doesn't really complain when you get it in low revs, but then it wouldn't because it is a big old twin. It's got a lot of torque. Not so much that it's too aggressive and constantly hunting and trying to push you forward, but enough that most of the fun that you get from it, most of the more exciting riding is found up to about 5,000 revs, despite this bike listing itself as having peaked between 6,000 and 7,500 revs. I actually find when you get up towards that high, it starts to trail off a little. Let's see what it accelerates to. I mean, you can feel that it does get a little keener. Gearbox is smooth, gear changes can be smooth. More when you're on song, it's a little bit harder to slip the clutch as you're going through traffic. That might be one of the criticisms I would give it. 0 to 60, I think I've seen listed somewhere around under 5 seconds, let's call it. If the V7 gave me about 5.5 seconds or something, just over, this I think is supposed to give you somewhere between 4.5 and 5. Feels smooth today, don't you? Good stuff. Beautiful autumn day. Actually, it's quite nice today. That's worked out well, that. I've seen people take these on tracks. I've seen people wearing those Power Ranger race suits, which looks a little incongruous on a bike like this, but it has the chops to back it up. It will take a corner neatly. As I say, you can to a certain degree feel the weight. It never takes over, but it does make me wonder if it was to lose traction briefly, whether that would be a problem, whether you could regain it. That though is purely hypothetical. What I can tell you from riding it and how this feels, the position is brilliant. It's a nice compromise between being set forward in a race position ready to go and having the comfort that you need if you were to take it on a long trip. It doesn't feel uncomfortable. As far as the wet weather handling goes, this is coupled with Michelin pilots. Although it wasn't the most enjoyable ride up to Wales I've ever had, I rode this thing through torrential rain. And whilst it doesn't like to sit out in the cold and wet when it's not moving, when you're riding it in less than ideal conditions, I felt as confident of this as I have of any other bike.
the extra weight sort of helps it actually bed down a bit. And I think that also plays to its benefit on a greasy road. And then obviously the tyres will help as well. The handling, you really do have to put a bit of feedback in to counter steer it. As I say, I'm going to call that positive handling. If you know a better or more accurate term for it, then by all means tell me. But what I mean is the bike looks like it wants to dip its own nose into the corner and tuck a little tighter. So you're pushing against it. There are some bikes where you feel like it's fairly neutral handling. I think actually that's the sort of handling that I prefer. But some people I'm sure out there will prefer the positive handling where it tucks itself in. But there you go, if you're looking for an out of the norm bike, it doesn't necessarily turn heads, but you don't see many of them around. It's quirky, it promotes a little bit of interest, it walks that fine line between performance and comfort so well. Something robust that feels like it will last you, then this might be the bike for you. All I'll say is be a little bit picky, hunt around for one, hunt around for the right one, and allow for a little extra patience, because you might find you need it.
I hate that noise. Stop making it. It means you're draining the battery.